Good day, students. Are you all watching the videos and making the best use of the time? We are in the third phase of the freedom struggle. Now let's take a quick recap of what we have learned. Gandhiji's first movement was the non-cooperation movement, which started in the year 1920. Now, what are the causes which led Gandhiji to start off the non-cooperation movement? The first moment is the Rowlatt Act, passing of the Rowlatt Act by Justice Sidney Rowlatt in the year 1919. And we saw what are the provisions or the terms of this particular act. Following that is the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, which took place, or Jallianwala Bagh tragedy. The Bagh is missing over here. B-A-G-H. Okay. Now, tragedy, which also took place in the year 1919, following the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, was a Khilafat movement in the year 1919. Now, all these are the three major incidents which allowed Gandhiji to launch the non-cooperation movement. Now, we also studied what were the programs which were followed during the non-cooperation movement. And why did Gandhiji call off the non-cooperation movement? Because of the Chowri Chowra incident. And we concluded the non-cooperation movement with the impact of the non-cooperation movement. The second movement, which started in the year 1930 by Gandhiji, was the civil disobedient movement. Now, what were the causes which allowed Gandhiji to launch the civil disobedient movement? Is the Simon Commission and Declaration of Purna Swaraj. So the Simon Commission in the year 1927 and Purna Swaraj in the year 1929. Now this allowed Gandhiji to start off the Dandi March, and then we had learnt about the programs in the Dandi March and finally concluded with the impact of the civil disobedient movement. And now we are still continuing with the third chapter. Today we shall learn about the Quit India movement, which took place in the year 1942. I'm sure you would understand and you would have read all this. Well, students, we move on to the new chapter in history, lesson 7. Unit 1, we are still in the third phase. The topic is Quit India movement. So in this topic, we are going to see the provincial elections which took place, then the resignation of the Congress, and the Muslims who considered it to be a deliverance day when the Congress resigned. The next, we are going to see the August offer by Viceroy Lord Linlithgow. And we are going to see the causes for the Quit India movement, that is the Cripps mission and its failure, Japanese threat, and Quit India resolution, and finally we conclude the lesson with the impact. So we now see what are the events that led to the Quit India movement. First, we shall see the provincial elections which took place in the year 1937. The Congress won the elections which was held in 1937, and it won in the first 6 provinces and including the Northwestern Frontier province too. The Muslim League had not fared well in the election. Although Congress won, we shall now find out what made the Congress leaders to resign its office. By this time, the preparation for the Second World War was going on. The war broke out. Unfortunately, the British fighting in the Second World War involved the Indians without consulting Congress. The Congress Working Committee wanted freedom for India too. So they said, how is it possible when India is not free and using the Indians to help to attain freedom for their country? What is the logic in it? and so the Congress resigned in the year 1939. Now the Muslim League celebrated this resignation of Congress on 22nd December 1939 as a Deliverance Day. Why? Because the Congress came out of the office, so now the Muslim had to take over. So they called it as a Deliverance Day. The Congress was prepared to lend support to the Britain against Germany, provided that they would grant independence as soon as the war was over. Let's take a quick recap of what we have learned. We learned about the provincial election which took place in the year 1937, and Congress won majority of the seats. But within a shortest period of time, the Congress resigned its office. The reason being, the British made use of the Indians in the Second World War, which broke out in the year 1939 without consulting the Congress leaders, and hence Congress resigned. But the Muslims called this as a Deliverance Day, which took place in the year 1939, 22nd December. Now, what did the Congress ask the Britishers to do? They said, we will support you all provided that you grant us independence as soon as the World War is over. Which World War are we talking about? The Second World War is over. In the year 1940, Muslim League passed a resolution demanding the partition of the country and creating a new state called Pakistan. So what are the places which included in the word or coined in the word Pakistan? It was Punjab, Afghan, Kashmir, Sindh and Balochistan. I'm sure you would have understood how the word Pakistan was coined. So Pakistan was coined using Punjab, Afghanistan, Kashmir, Sindh and Balochistan. So in the year 1940, what did the Muslim League pass a resolution demanding? They demanded a partition of the country and creating of a new state. Now let us see what happened on August 8, 1940. The political dynamics of the ruling government changed in Britain. Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of Britain. Alongside, the Second World War condition also changed in Europe. The British feared that the Nazis would overthrow them and occupy Britain. This made the Indian National Congress tone down their stand for freedom and agreed to offer support to Britain in the war only if the British government approved of transferring power to the interim government in India. In this light, then the Viceroy, Lord Linlithgow, proposed some terms to the Indian National Congress in what was called as the August Offer. This was also the first time that the British acknowledged that the Indians were capable of framing their own constitution. Did you all understand? So what happened in the year 1940? The political dynamics of the government totally changed in Britain. So who became the Prime Minister at that time? It was Winston Churchill. So alongside what were the changes which took place? The Second World War condition also changed in Europe. And what did the British fear? They feared that the Nazis would overthrow them. So what toned down the Indian National Congress? They said, we are going to support you provided you give us the government. So transfer the power to the interim government in India. And who was a viceroy at that particular time? It was Lord Linlithgow. What did he propose? He proposed what is called as August Offer. So it was this the very first time, the British acknowledged that the Indians were capable of framing their own constitution. Now, was this August offer successful? No, sadly, neither the Indian National Congress nor the Muslim League accepted the August offer of 1940. Whereas the Indian National Congress rejected the offer as only Dominion status was proposed instead of complete independence. So why did the Congress reject and did not accept this? They rejected because the Dominion status was proposed instead of complete independence. And the Muslim League denied this offer, the August offer, as there was no mention of a separate state of Pakistan. In 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and its victories over Philippines and Malaya worried the Allies. With the Japanese victory over Burma, it was at India's door. The Japanese threat to attack India was so real that Pandit Nehru had advised the people to be ready to defend if for themselves using guerrilla tactics if required. Now let us know what were the causes that led to the Quit India movement. The Cripps mission, which came to India in the year 1942, it had come here to break the political deadlock, and his name was Sir Stafford Cripps, one who met Gandhiji and other political leaders to propose reforms. The Cripps mission was sent to India in 1942 to remove the political deadlock as the Japanese were swiftly moving towards India. And the British increasingly felt the need to gain support from the Indians to fight the Japanese. The fall of Burma, the threat of Japanese invasion, and international pressure on the British government by the US and the leaders of the Allied countries became a major reason for Winston Churchill to send Stafford Cripps, who was a member of the War Cabinet, to India, so that he could consult with the political parties for their support and the British government in the ongoing war. So what happened in the year 1942? The Cripps mission was sent to India. What was the reason? To remove the political deadlock or the gridlock. Why did they send them immediately? Why was the mission sent immediately? Because of the Japanese threat as they were moving towards India. So what gave them a threat? The fall of Burma to the Japanese invasion and the international pressure on the British government by the US and the leaders of the Allied countries became the major reason for Winston Churchill, one who was a Prime Minister at that time, to send Sir Stafford Cripps, who was a War Cabinet member, to India so that he could consult the political parties for their support as the war was going on, as the Second World War was going on. So, Sir Stafford Cripps met Gandhiji and other political leaders and proposed the following reforms. Now listen to the reforms very carefully so that you understand the failure of it also very well. The reforms are: a dominion status would be bestowed on India as soon as the Second World War is over. A constituent assembly consisting of only Indian members elected by the provincial assembly and also nominated by the princely state, and they would be able to draft their own constitution, was promised to the Indians. Any province that did not like to join India Dominion could draft their own constitution and form a separate union. This was another reform and a promise. The right of the minorities would also be protected. Until the war ended, all the powers, especially defense, would remain strictly under the ruling government or the ruling governor general. The Indians would organize the military resources along with the help of the people of India. Now, these are the reforms that they had made. So, quickly we shall take a quick recap of the reforms. So, Sir Stafford Cripps met whom? Gandhiji and the political leaders and suggested these are the reforms. What would be granted to India? A Dominion status. As soon as which war is over? The Second World War is over. So, what about the Constituent Assembly? The Constituent Assembly, consisting of only Indian members, would be elected to the Provincial Assembly. And those who do not want to join the Indian Dominion would draft their own constitution. The rights of the minority would also be protected. So what would remain in the hands of the British until the world war gets over? It was a defense. And all the other powers would be given to the Indians. The Cripps mission was rejected by all the Indian political parties on the following grounds. The Cripps mission did not bring the promise of independence in the near future. Second, the plan involved partition of the country. Third, the League opposed the creation of a single union. The proposal did not approve or assure of a separate state called Pakistan. The Hindu Mahasabha and the liberals were against the right of the states to break away from the Indian Dominion, as it would affect the national unity and security. So let us begin from first. The Cripps mission did not bring the promise of independence India in the near future. The second, the plan involved partition of the country. The third, the League opposed the creation of a single union. The proposal did not approve or assure of a separate state called Pakistan. Why were the Hindu Mahasabha and the liberals against this Cripps mission? They were against the right of states to break away from the Indian Dominion, as it would affect the national unity and security of India. Now let us continue to see what were the other things why the Cripps mission was rejected by the Indian political parties. The next reason is the Sikhs were not happy and they opposed the mission, saying that their interest would not be safeguarded and they would be at the mercy of the Muslim if partitioned. The depressed classes were not satisfied, as they felt their position and importance in a country would be dominated by the upper caste Hindus. Mahatma Gandhiji rejected it as the proposal and opposed to the principle of non-ascension of the provinces and called it as post-dated check on the failing bank. The Congress wanted all subjects, including defense, should be handed over to the national government and insisted on the national government with full responsibility. So let us learn this once again. Why did the Sikhs oppose? They opposed. Why? Because they would be under the mercy of the Muslims if partitioned. Because Punjab goes to the northwestern frontier province, as they demanded Pakistan, and their interest would not be safeguarded. So the Sikhs were not happy. The depressed classes were not satisfied because their position and importance in the country would be dominated by which class? Upper caste Hindus. Mahatma Gandhiji He refused the proposal. Why? Because he called it as post-dated check on the failing bank. The Congress also was not happy because they wanted defense also to be included in the national government, and they also insisted on the national government with full responsibility. Now you can expect a probable question from this particular thing. What were the causes for the failure for the Cripps mission? So this is one of the major causes to pass the resolution called the Quit India movement. So you need to learn this very well. So let's take a quick recap of all that we have learned. Cripps mission did not bring the promise of independence in the near future. The plan involved partition of the country. The League opposed because they did not want the creation of a single union. The Hindu Mahasabha and the liberals were also not happy because they wanted to see a united India. The Sikhs were not happy because they said they would be directly under the mercy of the Muslims if partition and their interests would not be safeguarded. The depressed classes were not satisfied because their position and importance in a country would be dominated by the upper caste Hindu. Mahatma Gandhi ji called it as post-dated check on a failing bank. The Congress also wanted to include defense in the national government, and they insisted on the national government with full responsibility. So after the failure, did Stafford Cripps remain in India? No, he returned back to his country, and the Congress started their new campaign called the Quit India movement in the year 1942. Remember, we are heading towards freedom within a few years of time. It's 1942, not a love story, but 1942, the Quit India resolution asking the Britishers to quit India for the good of Indians. So, it's a countdown which begins for them. So, let's learn another cause for passing the Quit India resolution in Unit 2.